Hi, Care Heroes. I'm Trish Laub, and welcome to A Cup of Comfort with me. This is about you, the Care Hero. Whether you're new to the show today or have listened to some of the shows, I encourage you to visit the Care Hero radio page of my website, Trish Laub, that's TRISH LAUB as in boy.com. I've already covered several really important Care Hero topics. So how are all of you doing today? I'm having a great day. Let me share a story. Shortly after moving across the country, my dad, who was living with Alzheimer's, had to have a minor surgical procedure. He was recovering well in the hospital and transferred under his own volition to a skilled rehab facility to spend 5 days. By the time I saw him there several days later, he was in the fetal position from having been both mismedicated and overmedicated. When I spoke to the doctor on call, he said that he didn't know what was wrong with my dad or what to do for him. Seriously? Has that ever happened to any of you? And at that point, even the nurses were at a loss, asking me what medications I wanted them to give him and what to do. Obviously, there was a serious problem. So I did what any good daughter would do. I called an ambulance and took my dad back to the ER at the hospital where he'd had minor surgery. As I was taking my dad from the facility, I was handed a postcard with the name of a woman and a phone number and was just told to call her. Once in the ER, I explained the problem, and my dad was examined and then wheeled out on a gurney into the hallway to wait. Wait for what? We didn't know. A woman approached us explaining that because we weren't there for an actual emergency with my dad, he wouldn't be admitted and that we couldn't stay there. We had nowhere to go, and I burst into tears. The woman said that she'd make a call and left. Meanwhile, I still had the postcard that was given to me in my hand. The card said something about offering help when looking for living options and said that she did it for, wait for it, free. Can you imagine that? She did it for free, but I didn't even know what she did for free. I didn't understand who the woman whose card I held was or what she did at all, but the woman in the hospital came back and suggested that I call a specific skilled rehab facility to move my dad there. I thought to call the number on the card. I explained my situation and asked her if she could just tell me if the facility that had been recommended to me was any good. She told me that it was a good option and we hung up. And with me still not understanding who she was or what she really offered or why she even talked to me. So we left the ER and went to the second skilled rehab facility. And in the end, it was better, but not by much. It was my entry into learning about the need to advocate for my dad and later my mom. Now, fast forward many years after both of my parents passed away, I met my guest. She described to me what she does, and it brought back the memory of the postcard I had received and held so tightly that day. Now, before I introduce my guest, I want to remind everyone that some of the information from today's show will be available in a downloadable PDF on the CareHero radio page of my website, trishlaub.com, after the show. When Cameron Crawford's mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's at age 66, Cameron spent the first 4 years crying and overwhelmed. Then she decided, as she says, to put on her big girl pants and make something good out of a heartbreaking experience. 13 years later, she is the owner of Next Steps Senior Placement and creator of the Aging Parent Tribe Facebook group. She's a Baylor grad, has an MBA, and is also a certified senior advisor. Welcome, Cameron.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. We've had so many great conversations, and I'm excited for you to share your knowledge with the care heroes who are listening. Obviously, if I didn't have a clue what you did, I'm pretty sure a lot of other people don't understand the invaluable service that you offer. So why don't we just jump right in and you start by telling us your story and how you came to do what you do.
Great. Thank you. Well, as you were saying, my mom was diagnosed when she was young, which meant that I was pretty young. At the time, none of my friends had parents with Alzheimer's or dementia. And so I remember when I called and heard what the doctor said, I was actually sitting at a preschool soccer game. And so I was right in the middle of, a sandwich generation where all of a sudden I still have kids in preschool. And then I have a mom that is suddenly struggling with something that, you think of as a very old person disease. And I didn't think of my mom as old. So I'm a researcher. So I jumped into research mode, started looking out different things. My parents live in Texas. So for the first few years, I did a lot of long distance caregiving, and I would actually fly back to Texas and go to doctor's appointments and things like that. But fast forward a few years, my mom started to decline pretty rapidly, and we didn't think we were going to be able to keep her home anymore. So I got a list of communities. I started checking them out. I went to go visit all of them. And I think I visited probably 10 or 11. And I just remember thinking all of the salespeople are so nice. They're so nice. They're so empathetic. Most of the buildings are beautiful. They're not like you think of as old school nursing homes. These were, I mean, prettier than my house. And but I just kept wondering, you know, what's going on? And I wish I knew more. And most of all, I wish that I had somebody guiding me through this. I just had a desire for someone that knew a little bit more than I did to walk beside me through that. I actually one day was surfing the web, and I found the name of a placement agent company, and I didn't even know they existed. I didn't know what that was. And because I kept telling my friends, I wish this was a job. I wish I could do this. Because once my friends started going through this, I would go with them. I would make the appointments. I would go with them on it, because it's so emotionally draining when you go the first few times. And when you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with grief of losing who your parent was, you're dealing with finances. So it's all the feelings mixed together. And so anyway, I found a listing for a placement agent, and I called my dad and said, I think this is what I want to do. I want to start this company. And he said, no, I don't think that exists. And I go, no, it does. I just saw it. He's like, I don't think it's a real job. And so it's a real job. And I found a lady out in California who had been doing it for 10 years and hired her to kind of be my mentor through the first year, and started helping families find the appropriate place for their parents.
That is amazing. I think you hit the nail right on the head. If I remember right, even from just, adulthood, moving is one of the 5 major stressors.
Oh.
And to move in those circumstances is just overwhelming for families. So can you talk a little bit about what a placement agent does?
Sure.
Explain what that postcard was to me.
I know. It's more than a postcard. So when someone calls me, my services are free to families. And so I listen to them, I listen to their story. And because a lot of times somebody will send me a message and say, what do you think of this place? What do you think of that place? Well, the thing is that pretty much every place can be appropriate depending on what your needs are. But everyone's story is so unique that it's really hard to give a flat answer of what's the best place without knowing everybody's story. And so when they call me, my job is to listen. I do, a medical intake. I talk about finances with them and get an idea what that looks like. I look at location, and then I want to know who their person is. Are they a social person? So they want to be in a place with a lot of activities. Are they a very private person? Are they really declined? So they're going to need somebody close by all the time. There's just, the thing is in Denver alone, there's over 430 assisted living choices. And so all of them have their different niches. And so you really want to know somebody's story and figure out what's special to them. And I say there's a lot of options, but there's some things that we can't ever give on. We can't give on care, and we can't give on budget. If you spend too much money, especially at the beginning, then your person can be, it could have a huge impact on them if you're looking for a long-term placement. So you always want to keep their finances in mind, and then making sure that they can actually meet their needs. A lot of communities will, they have different opinions of what their care levels are and what they can do. But a placement person can kind of narrow down exactly what your loved one's needs are and what communities would be able to appropriately fit for
So
those.
you've done all the homework on all of these different options ahead of time. And so just for people who are listening, I have referred several people to Cameron because I know the level of the work that she does. And she has made several families that I'm close to very happy because she's found the appropriate place for somebody. But so you do all of the research and then you take, what happens? Do you take them there? What happens once you
Sure.
kind of get that intake?
So once they talk to me, what I like to do is, I like to do an initial phone conversation, and then I actually like to meet the person. During COVID, that just didn't happen, except sometimes over Zoom. And that's because sometimes what someone's telling me is different than when I actually meet someone. I'm like, oh, well, they might fit here. So I like to meet them. And then I set up all the tours around your time schedule. Then I meet you there and I meet them there. And I like to go on tours with people. And I've had people say, well, I can do it myself. I don't want to bother you. But the thing is, that's part of what I love is, I know all of this about you and I know all this about the community. And I look at it as almost like making a love connection. It's like a bit of the dating game. And so when we're walking through, I can say, oh, and I know your mom loves to play cards and they have a bridge group that meets every Thursday. Or I can point out things to say, oh, well, you make sure to tell them about the ambassador program you have, where current residents help new residents to integrate into the community. And so I know things from both sides. And, a lot of times when I go on a tour, when I was a family member, I would have my long list. I had a big yellow pad of paper with all my questions on it. But when you get there, there's so many thoughts running through your heads, you just forget to ask some things. So my job is to prompt both sides to, tell us more or to ask questions that are appropriate.
And that's invaluable that you've been through this process on your own and realized what's needed, what to look for. And I just want to take a second. I want to point out to people who are listening that my example of calling what turned out to be a placement agent from the ER that day is not the way that's supposed to happen. Had I known they existed, we would have been working with a placement agent before that happened. So just, they're not supposed to be you're not supposed to be calling them up asking about a specific place. That kind of thing. So I just wanted to qualify that.
Right.
So what happens after, so how many, is there like a certain number that you usually take them to tour or?
I like to go to 3 or 4. Once you go past 4, everything starts to get muddy. And, if I'm doing my job right, I should be able to select 3 or 4 good options that are appropriate. And sometimes we do more. Sometimes we go to 1 or 2 and they say, this is it. But I think that usually people benefit from looking at all 3 because then they can compare and feel better about their decision.
Sure. Right. So I just want to kind of interject the question about how does a placement agent get paid? Because I know that's very confusing to people when you say the family doesn't pay for it. Well, hopefully you're really not giving away your services for free.
Right.
But I found it kind of interesting.
Yeah, when it was sweet, when I first started, I had an older lady say, I don't want to tell you what to do, but that seems like a really bad option. And so I was like, no, trust me. Sorry, that's coming through on my computer. So I have contracts with communities all over town. And I don't have contracts at all 430, but I have contracts at about 250 of them.
Wow.
And so they pay me, they compensate me if somebody moves in. And recently I had somebody ask me, well, now do you get paid for each place you take us? And I was like, no, but that's a great idea. I'm like,
business
I
model.
would take you to like 15 places, but no, if you move in and someone stays there for over 30 days, then the community would compensate me.
Awesome. Within the communities, is there kind of a set fee that they pay?
You know what? They are all over the board.
Okay.
So, yeah, I have percentages really all over the board. And like some of the smaller places pay less, like especially some of the residential homes.
Yeah.
I don't charge them as much. And,
Mhm.
and then if somebody's saying less than 30 days, it's a certain amount. So it just totally depends on the community.
When you just brought up something interesting, you mentioned residential homes, and I find that not a lot of people are familiar with that concept. And here again is the benefit of working with a placement agent, because they know about residential homes and they can let you can let your clients know about them. Even as much as I've been doing in this industry, that was kind of a new concept for me from the time when I was providing care. So, I mean, and I personally think, especially post COVID, we're going to find more and more different options for
Well,
care.
and residential homes, I mean, they're some of my very favorites.
Yeah.
It depends on, and I tell my clients, because a lot of times that is a totally different concept to them. And so it's a little scary. And they're always like, are they licensed? Is this legal? Are you sure they're allowed to do this? And a residential home actually has to follow all of the same regulations as a 200-person
Wow.
assisted living. And they get all the same oversight from the state. They and the care ratio usually ends up being, instead of a larger place where it might be at best 1 to 8, but usually more 1 to 10. Wow, everyone is calling, and I didn't turn that off.
Placement agents are on call a lot.
I know.
I know.
Maybe somebody's watching and they're calling me now. And I don't even know how to. Oh, I wonder if I turn my phone off. Okay, sorry. You told me just to have fun, but I'm messing
I
up.
did. We're just having fun.
I've pushed every button I could.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's okay.
All right. Anyway, but and I tell my clients that with residential homes, there's some that are amazing that you're going to get really the highest level of care in and really great attention. And then there's some that aren't amazing. And my job is to help you find the ones that are good and that have a great reputation for care.
Absolutely. So can you talk a little bit about how you save your clients not only time, but stress?
Oh, well, it is stressful. Anybody that's looked knows it's stressful. And, you're just working off of the internet or a piece of paper and going through and calling. And, my job is to do all the homework for you. So number one, instead of like when I started out as a family member, I called an online service and asked them, and they sent me a list of 10 to 12 names. And people started calling me, communities started calling me as soon as I hung up, which then that stressed me out.
Yes.
So my job is I protect your privacy. So I don't disclose your contact information until you tell me that it's okay. And I would never do that until we've already toured and you've said, oh yeah, I think I'm interested in that. So maybe you'll be contacting, maybe 1 or 2 communities will call you, but that's it. And also just the fact that I'm doing, there's state websites that I look at what the care history is. If I have families there, I always call my families back and make sure, things are still going well, because things change constantly. A lot of times you can move into a place because they have an amazing memory care director. And then, the memory care director leaves and the whole place feels different. So my job is kind of to stay on top of all that. And then just to answer your questions, I went to look at a memory care with a daughter last week, and it was, we walked out and she burst out in tears and just, and I did the same thing the first time I went and looked for my mom, because I think you're dealing with so much grief about, losing who your parent was, being at this state. Sometimes move-ins are happy and everything's fine and everybody's gung-ho. But a lot of, I would say normally there's a lot more emotions tied into that. And so we left the memory care. She burst out and cried. We talked through it. We talked about what to expect and emotionally how to deal with it. I help people talk to their, give them some ideas of what to say to their loved ones. Because a lot of times parents are really resistant to make a change, even though everyone knows they need med management. They're having falls at home. There's just safety factors where it's not a good idea for them to go home and they can't move in with the family member. And so I'm part counselor, part placement.
Yeah, no, I think that whole explanation gave a really good view of there's so many, especially in moving to another residence, so many factors. It's the family, it's, it's the care issue, it's the person who's giving up some percentage of independence, perhaps, depending on what level of care they're going to, or if they're going to independent living. They just need to be in a place with more amenities. So I think that's a great example. We're gonna have to start wrapping up. So I want to make sure that people know how to find you.
Sure. So you can go to my website is www.nextsteps with an S at the end, senior without an S.com. So nextstepsenior.com. Yes, there are two S's right together. And then I also run a Facebook group called the Aging Parent Tribe. And it's an informative and support group. And it's been just a great way to support caregivers in my area. And so on Facebook, if you go to Aging Parent Tribe Info and Support Group, then you can join that. And we talk about all the issues there. I know you've been one of my co-hosts before.
I am this month.
I know. And we talk about the goods, the bads, what depends,
everything.
Work, what don't, all
we get into the nitty gritty in that group.
Yeah.
But for the people, I mean, the group, just to explain, Cameron's a professional, I'm a professional. We're there to be a resource. We're not there to market our products or our services per se, and just to answer questions. If somebody throws out a question or somebody's talking about housing and I tag Cameron in it, she can answer that. One other thing, and I don't have it in front of me, so hopefully, Cameron, you do. There is a national website where people can find a placement consultant or agent in their area.
Yes.
Do you have that?
And
I think I got it for Olivia to put up on the screen for people watching video.
NPR. I'm going to say it's npr.org. I got to put on my glasses here and there's going to be a glare. It's the NPRA stands for National Placement and Referral Alliance. And I believe their website is npra.org, but I could be wrong.
You know what? It's in that PDF they can download, so don't worry about it.
It's in the PDF.
Yes, it is. So I need to thank you for providing all that great information. Great detail, great information. I'm just so happy to be able to help people understand what a placement agent is. So thank you very much. Remember, I just want to remind everybody they can download the PDF off of today's show from the CareHero radio page of TrishLaub.com. I want to thank everybody for listening, spending this time with Cameron and me today. There's so much more you can find on my CareHero radio page. You can, email me, send me feedback, tell me what topics you want. Please join me the second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 12 Pacific and 3 Eastern. Next time on June 8th, I will meet you here with a special guest, Robert Party. He'll be sharing the 7 lessons he learned through his CareHero journey. But before then, check out my conversation with him when I guest hosted for the Dr. Pat Show on May 3rd. We talked about removing your armor to access your resilience. You've got to hear this. It's really good. I want to take a minute to share a few of the topics that we have coming up on the show. One is a morning routine that changed a CareHero's life. We'll be talking on another show about a different approach to keeping those living with dementia at home longer. Then you can call Cameron after that. And then we've got lots more personal stories from care heroes like you. So until next time, remember that you are a care hero. Thank you for listening to A Cup of Comfort with me, Trish Laub, and for your Care Hero courage. Tune in next time on Transformation Talk Radio as we explore life-changing Care Hero topics to assist you on your journey. In the meantime, I would love to hear any tips or insights that you've taken away with you today. So head on over to trishlaub.com. That's Trish Laub, L-A-U-B as in boy.com, and leave a comment, a question you would like answered, or a topic you'd like to hear about in the future. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to my newsletter. So raise a cup and let's toast to all the amazing care heroes out there giving it their all. Until next time, remember that you are true heroes.